I never expected a single text to change everything. One moment, I was scrolling through my phone like any other night, nursing a pint of ice cream and the kind of heartbreak you can't cure with Netflix. And then it came, her message. Not from her, but from her sister. I froze. My thumb hovered over the screen, heart thudding like it had a mind of its own. A part of me knew I shouldn't reply. A louder part of me screamed to read it anyway. I did. And that's when everything started unraveling. Her sister's words were simple, almost casual, but there was something underneath them that made my skin crawl and my chest tighten. She said, "Stay." Just that. Stay. And then she added, "We need you here." I stared at my phone, disbelief and confusion warring inside me. Stay? Need me? I wasn't sure what she meant, but I felt the gravity of it like a weight pressing on my chest. My mind flashed back to her, the woman I thought I knew, the one who had walked away from me months ago, leaving nothing but cold silence and a memory that refused to fade. I thought I'd begged her back. I thought I'd cried, explained, pleaded. I thought I'd done everything a person could do to get her to notice me again. But she didn't. She left, and I learned the hard way that love sometimes isn't enough. And now her sister, the one I barely knew, had always seemed kind but distant, was asking me to stay forever. For what? Why? Every part of me screamed that this was wrong, that I was stepping into something I didn't understand, but something else, a pull I couldn't fight, urged me forward. I set my phone down and tried to breathe. Tried to convince myself that it was just a strange joke, or maybe some weird test I didn't sign up for. But then I remembered the look in her sister's eyes the last time I saw her, watching me from across a room, the corner of her mouth twitching like she knew something I didn't. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. That my life, the life I had built around ordinary heartbreak and quiet regret, was about to collide with something I couldn't predict, something dangerous, maybe even terrifying, but irresistible all the same. I picked my phone back up, fingers trembling. The cursor blinked at me, waiting, and I realized, deep down, that whatever choice I made next, it wasn't just about staying or leaving. It was about stepping into a world I didn't know existed, and once I did, there might be no going back. So I typed a single word. Okay. And that was the moment I realized I had just crossed a line I couldn't undo. Before that text, my life had settled into a kind of gray rhythm. Work, home, coffee at the same corner cafe I'd been going to for years. Nothing spectacular, nothing dangerous, just quiet routines and memories that haunted me more than I realized. Her name was Emily. She wasn't perfect, far from it, but she had this way of lighting up a room just by walking into it. I thought I knew her inside and out. I thought I understood her laughter, her silences, the way she'd curl her hair around her finger when she was nervous. And I thought we were on the same page, until the day she walked away without a backward glance. Her sister, Clara, was different. She had always been observant, I guess. Quiet in a way that made her presence sharp. Not intrusive, but you noticed her when she entered a room. Clara was the kind of person who saw more than you wanted her to, and she had a smile that could feel both comforting and warning at the same time. I'd met her casually at family dinners, holiday gatherings, and the occasional birthday party. Never thought I'd see her as anything more than Emily's sister. After Emily left, I tried to move on. Friends told me to forget her, to start dating again, to live my life. But forgetting someone like Emily? It wasn't something you could do with effort. It clung to you, in quiet moments, in songs that reminded you of her laugh, in smells that suddenly carried her memory. That night, when Clara messaged me, it felt like the world had shifted beneath my feet. It wasn't just the words. It was the way she wrote them, carefully, deliberately, as if she knew exactly how fragile I was, and was using that fragility to pull me in. I had questions. So many questions. Why was Clara asking me to stay? Did Emily know? Did this invitation, mean something deeper? And most importantly, could I trust her? Because something about the way she phrased it, something about that text, felt like a warning disguised as a promise. I didn't know what I was stepping into. I didn't know if staying meant confronting the past, or walking into something I wasn't prepared for. The truth was, I wanted to stay. Even if it scared me, even if it felt wrong, a part of me couldn't resist. So I walked into her apartment the next evening, heart hammering in my chest like it was trying to escape. Clara opened the door before I could knock. She smiled, but there was something unreadable behind her eyes, something I couldn't quite place. She stepped aside, letting me in, and for a moment, the room felt smaller, tighter, like it was holding its breath along with me. It smelled faintly of vanilla and something else I couldn't identify, a scent that seemed intentional. I realized then that this was more than a casual invitation. This was a plan, a test, and I was the only one who didn't know the rules yet. I wanted to ask questions, to demand answers. But before I could, Clara said, softly, almost like she was reading my mind, "You don't know what's waiting for you here, but I promise you'll want to see it." And in that moment, I understood that everything I thought I knew about Emily, about Clara, about what was real and what was dangerous, was about to be turned upside down. The apartment felt smaller than I remembered. Every corner seemed to hum with secrets, and every shadow looked like it might be hiding something. Clara didn't say much at first, just guided me to the living room and gestured for me to sit. Her eyes never left mine, sharp and calculating, like she was reading more than just my face. She was reading my hesitation, my doubt, my fear. "Why did you ask me to stay?" I finally asked, my voice sounding shakier than I wanted. Clara smiled faintly, tilting her head. "Because you're here for a reason, and some things can't be understood right away." I swallowed hard. That wasn't an answer. It was a warning. And yet, the pull I felt to trust her, or at least to follow her, was almost unbearable. Part of me wanted to turn around, walk out, and go back to my quiet, predictable life. But another part, the part that had loved Emily so fiercely, wanted to stay and understand whatever this was. She moved around the apartment with an ease that made me uneasy, touching objects, opening drawers, and glancing back at me as if testing me. "You think you know Emily, don't you?" she said softly. "You think her leaving was the end. But it's not. Not even close." My stomach twisted. What did that mean? Was Emily in trouble? Was this some elaborate revenge? Or something worse? I wanted answers, but I also realized that asking too many questions might push Clara into shutting down completely. Then she stopped in front of a tall mirror, her reflection perfectly still. Sometimes, people leave for a reason, and sometimes, they leave to protect you from what they couldn't explain. I felt my heart spike. Protect me? From what? The tension in the room thickened, heavy and suffocating. I had this sudden, overwhelming sense that I'd stumbled into something far larger than a family drama, something that might consume me if I wasn't careful. Just as I was about to demand more, my phone buzzed. A new message. I picked it up and froze. It wasn't from Clara, it was from Emily. It read, "If you're seeing this, don't trust her. Not yet. Everything depends on what you do next." And in that instant, my world cracked open. I realized I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't control, something that might change everything or destroy it. And I had no idea which way to turn. I stared at the message from Emily, my hands trembling as if holding a live wire. Clara noticed immediately, her eyes narrowing, but she didn't speak. Instead, she walked to the window and pulled back the heavy curtains, letting a shaft of pale evening light slice across the room. The shadows it left behind seemed to pulse, as if the apartment itself was alive, watching me. "You got a message," she said finally, her voice calm but sharp. "I wonder what she wants you to know, and what she doesn't." I wanted to demand answers, to confront her, but something in her tone told me that doing so would be dangerous. Every instinct screamed that I was no longer in control. The more I stayed, the less I could trust my own judgment. Clara moved to the bookshelf, running her fingers over old photo albums and journals. She pulled one down and handed it to me. "This is where it all begins," she said softly. I opened it hesitantly. Inside were photographs. Emily as a child, Emily laughing at family gatherings, Emily staring at me with a mix of longing and fear. But then, as I flipped through, I noticed the odd ones. Pictures of strangers, always in the background, blurred faces, shadows that looked like they didn't belong. My chest tightened. What were these? Before I could ask, Clara knelt down beside me. "You need to understand something," she whispered, almost conspiratorially. "Emily isn't just gone because she wanted to be. She left because she had no choice. And the reason is closer than you think." Her words made my stomach drop. Closer? Closer to what? To danger? To me? I felt like I was staring into a mirror and seeing my own fear reflected back, distorted and magnified. And then came the knock. Soft at first, then louder. My heart jumped to my throat. Clara didn't flinch, but I could see her eyes sharpen. She gestured toward the door. It's not what you think, but it's here, and soon, you'll have to decide. The doorknob turned slowly. I held my breath. Whoever, or whatever, was outside. It wasn't a visitor dropping by for tea. There was weight in the air, a tense anticipation that made every muscle in my body tense. I glanced at Clara, her face unreadable, almost impossible to read. I wanted to ask her if this was some game, some twisted test of loyalty or courage. But even as the question formed in my mind, the door creaked open just a fraction, revealing a shadowed figure standing beyond the threshold. And at that moment, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again, and that whatever was waiting on the other side of that door might change everything I thought I knew about Emily, Clara, and myself. The shadow stepped into the room, and my heart froze. I expected someone ordinary, maybe a friend of Clara's, but the figure stopped in the light, and I saw her face. Emily. My mind screamed. She was supposed to be gone, unreachable, a memory I had spent months clinging to. And yet, here she was, alive, but different. There was something in her eyes I didn't recognize. Fear, yes, but also something darker, sharper, something almost dangerous. Before I could move, she raised a finger, pointing at me, and whispered, "You shouldn't be here. She's not who you think she is." I turned to Clara, expecting an explanation, but she was frozen, pale, a single bead of sweat running down her temple. Her calm facade was gone. Something I had trusted completely was now fractured, uncertain. And then Emily took a step closer, her voice trembling but urgent. "Everything you thought was real, it was a trap. And now you're part of it." The room went silent, but the air felt thick, almost alive, pressing against me from all sides. I realized, in that instant, that nothing about this night, or these two women, was as it seemed. I was trapped, and whatever game they were playing had just begun. Emily's words hit me like a thunderclap. A trap? Part of me wanted to scream, to run, but my legs refused to obey. My eyes darted between the two sisters, searching for answers, searching for something real in the chaos of their expressions. Clara finally spoke, her voice low and trembling. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought I could protect you, but..." She stopped, the words hanging like a warning in the air. Emily stepped closer, the dim light catching the sharp edges of her face. "You were never meant to know the truth yet. But now that you do, you have to choose." I felt the weight of the room press down on me, the tension so thick I could barely breathe. "Choose what?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Choose who you trust," Clara whispered, her eyes darting to Emily. "Because only one of us is telling the whole story." Everything slowed. I realized then that the love I thought I had lost, the heartbreak I'd carried for months, wasn't the point. The point was survival, of my mind, my heart, maybe even my life. Emily reached out, her fingers brushing mine. "You have to stay or leave. But if you leave, everything you know will be gone. Forever." I wanted to ask what would happen if I stayed, but then I noticed something. Something subtle, almost hidden in Clara's posture, the way her eyes glinted in the dim light. A lie, a hidden agenda. My pulse raced as the final realization hit me. The danger wasn't just outside the apartment. It was inside. It had been inside all along. And the person I thought I could trust the most might be the one I needed to fear the most. I took a deep breath and made my decision. Whatever came next, there would be no going back. And then, just as I moved, Emily smiled, strangely, unnervingly, and whispered, "You think you're done choosing, but the real choice hasn't even started yet." The apartment felt quieter after the tension broke, though the air still carried a subtle hum, like it hadn't fully decided whether to calm or erupt again. I sat down, finally letting myself breathe, staring at both sisters who had turned my world upside down. Emily looked at me with something that resembled vulnerability, fragile, human, real. "I didn't want you to get hurt," she said softly. "Everything I did to protect you. But I can't protect you from everything." Clara stepped closer, a small, genuine smile forming, one that didn't hide her intensity. "And I pushed too far. I thought I knew what was best for you, for both of us, but I realized something important tonight. Trust isn't about control. It's about letting someone choose, even if you fear the outcome." I exhaled slowly, letting the tension release from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel, clarity. Emily hadn't left because she didn't care. She left because she had to, because the truth she carried was bigger than either of us could face alone. And Clara, she had only ever wanted what was best, even if her methods were extreme. I realized then that the trap, the secrets, the chaos, they weren't meant to destroy me. They were a test, yes, but also a chance to understand the depth of the bond one had with Emily and the unexpected connection I now had with Clara. I stayed. I said finally, my voice quiet but firm. Not because I was told to, but because I wanted to. Because this, whatever this is, it's part of my life now. Both sisters nodded, relief softening their faces. The fear, the games, the secrets, they weren't gone, but they didn't have to define me anymore. Emily reached out, holding my hand in hers, and I felt a warmth I hadn't known for months, a sense of being home in the middle of chaos. Clara rested a hand lightly on my shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of trust earned and lessons learned. As we sat there, the sun finally broke fully through the window, bathing the room in golden light. It was ordinary, almost mundane, but after everything, it felt miraculous. I realized life didn't have to be about avoiding heartbreak or danger. Sometimes it was about stepping into the unknown and discovering strength, love, and truth in the places you least expected. And yet, as we laughed softly, sharing a quiet moment of relief, a message appeared on my phone. From Emily. I opened it, heart skipping. It read, "You think you've seen everything, but the next chapter is just beginning." I smiled, a mix of dread and anticipation. One thing was clear, life had a way of keeping us on our toes. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly the point.